All right, so let me ask you about your Lakers. They beat the Knicks in overtime on Saturday.
Yeah.
LeBron was back. He had a 29-point triple-double. That's the good news.
He was good.
He was good. Bad news, Frank Vogel benched Russell Westbrook in overtime and went with Taylor Horton-Tucker instead. Is this, in fact, rock bottom for Westbrook in L.A., or could he plummet even further?
I don't know, Jim. That's a good question. It's such a complicated situation because, like, on one hand, blame falls on Russell Westbrook. He's not playing well enough, right? And the sort of volume of his mistakes, as we watch this clip, is this the off the backboard? Yeah, sure. Okay. So, like, we've seen this a couple times, and it's just like, and then he gets in his own head and he's hesitating and stuff like that, which, like, Russell Westbrook is a guy who, at his best, sort of doesn't think. It's just kind of like brick to the gas pedal, go as fast as he can and let chaos sort of unfold. And generally, he has done well in that chaos. Now, take his role with the Lakers, which is to be sort of complimentary, right? Like, he's never complimented anybody ever. I mean, like, I guess Durant really early a little bit, they go to the finals and stuff, but really, every Russell Westbrook team is a very Russell Westbrook team. And now he's trying to figure out how to do the little things, right? How to operate in the margins. Well, like, this dude is 35-point, bold font. Like, he doesn't work in the margins.
I mean, dude, is he trying to do that?
I think so.
Is a guy like that even capable of changing?
I don't know that he's capable of changing. I believe that he's trying, and he's trying to do the right thing. And that's when you see, like, these clips of him getting the ball, and, like, he's wide open, and he wants to shoot, but, like, the crowd doesn't want him to shoot, and he kind of, like, hesitates. That's him thinking, and that's not good for them. They don't want him to be a slow down sort of player. They want him to be himself. But at the same time, because you have LeBron James and because you have Anthony Davis, like, you have these sort of hurdles to him being himself. It's probably a broken fit. Sort of what we all said
when they made the move.
When they made it, it's kind of played out that way.
Dude, if we all knew that, then how did the guy who brought him in, LeBron, not know that?
Well, because he's fixed every problem that's ever been put ahead of him in the NBA, right? Like, I mean, he made it work.
Not this one.
He made it work with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. He made it work with Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. Like, why not be able to make this work? And I mean, I don't think LeBron James didn't think he could figure this out, right? And look, they've only played seven. I would say, Jim, they only have played 17 games together, which is like the weird sort of part of this. But it's not like there's a ton of evidence in those 17 games, even though I think they're 10-7, to be like, oh, like, watch out for this team.
Is that what Dan Woike is my guess? Do you think that if you hit LeBron and said, hey, man, be real and be straight, if you hit him and management with that, do you regret making this move for Westbrook? Would they say it's only been 17 games, or deep down do they know that this was a big mistake, it doesn't work, and it's not going to work?
I mean, I think deep down they have to know, right? They're 2 or 3 games under 500. We're 55 games in the year, right? Like this isn't a team that's designed to, like, if things go right, they might be the 6th seed and not have to be in the play-in game. Like, that's not the bar for success for this team. Like, this is a team, like, they're a title team. Like, it's like either they win the championship or the season is a failure. So by that amount, I mean, they have to know right now that, like, they're not in a good position. I think the glimmer of hope that they have, and it still exists, and this is why it's such a frustrating team to cover, and maybe a fun team at times, is they just show you just enough, right? Like, they're just, like, they tease, like, sort of their potential just, like, maybe for 5-6 minutes a game, and, like, you have to remind yourself, yeah, this is happening against the Knicks, or, like, this is happening against the Pistons, or something like that. You have to remind yourself when this is occurring. But, like, they just show you just enough. And you're kind of like...
the one thing I stopped doing, I stopped playing that game of, all right, so now they go. Now they can throw the switch. They beat this team. They did this.
Yeah.
Now it's go time. But it's not go time. They go back to 500. This is who they are. This is where they live. This is what they are. I'm not caught up in that game of, okay, now they get it. Now it's time. Let's go.
They are
I think this is who they are.
They are an everything has to go right team from this point forward. And, like, if there's one thing we know about sports, right, it's like everything usually doesn't go right, and you have to have contingencies. And, like, that's the big miss in the Westbrook part, was, like, he was the contingency, right? Like, the big part of the reason why they made the trade is because last year when Anthony Davis got hurt, when LeBron James got hurt, the team went in the tank. And they weren't able to play without those two guys, because even though they thought Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell, and those guys would be able to carry the load, there wasn't enough star power there, and they couldn't handle the non-LeBron, non-AD minutes. So they thought, well, here's Russell Westbrook. Like, he has put teams on his back. He put Washington on his back last year in the second half of the season. Like, he can do this again. And I think the tricky part is that you can't ask a guy, hey, carry us sometime. and then the other time, stand in the corner and don't get in the way.
Dude, have you ever seen a superstar go to shoot the ball and have the entire arena audibly gasp like, dude, don't shoot it.
It was bad. Yeah,
I've never seen that before.
It was a bad moment. I mean, he got booed after that off the backboard three. I mean, that's been sort of building, Jim, over there a little bit, like with, he'd get the ball, he's open, because teams don't guard
care how tough he is mentally. Don't tell me that's not in his head.
Has to be. Yeah, it has to be. I mean, because you see it in, you see it in the hesitation. That's the evidence, right? Is like, and look, and good on Russ. He came and talked to us after the game, said, all that matters is that we won. Yeah, I wish I was out there, but like, this isn't about me. It's about our team. That's great. But for the Lakers to be a good team, it's not going to be with Russ on the bench and Talen Horton-Tucker playing crunch time. That's not the recipe. The recipe has to be Russell Westbrook as a tippy-top guy in the NBA, and they haven't gotten him there. They haven't figured it out that way. And it's going to be with AD playing the way.
Bottom line, can they? Can they get him there, or is he just no longer that guy?
I don't think he's that guy with this team, certainly. There are little shreds of evidence that would suggest like maybe things will get better. Improve continuity with, if they were able to stay healthy, which, by the way, we're talking about Anthony Davis and 37-year-old LeBron James. So if they're able to stay healthy, it is a jump. But if those three guys are able to stay healthy, maybe they figure some of this stuff out over the next 30 games. I think, Russell has always been a player who's gotten better as the season generally has gone along. He's a better second-half player, so maybe that's something too. But, I mean, this is a roster that to me, when I look at like the Warriors or the Bucks, who we'll see on Tuesday against the Lakers, or the Suns, it's just like those teams just make so much more sense.
Dan Woike, my guess. What about this? You can look at their rosters, or you can look at the actual standings, and they're a lot closer to the Kings than they are the Suns and Golden State Warriors.
This is all respect for LeBron James, by the way. I think that's why people feel this way. And it's funny when you talk to execs around the league and you talk to scouts, like they don't talk about the Lakers like they're a ninth place team, right? Like there's still like kind of this feeling that because of LeBron James and because what we've seen, like, and Anthony Davis, by the way, who since he came back from his knee injury has been like the dude that the Lakers thought they were trading for, right? 27 and 15, 27 and 17, like that kind of an impact player. But they were 1-4 in that stretch. LeBron comes back, like, they go to overtime to beat the Knicks. Like, yeah, great that they came back, but they also were bad enough to fall down by 21 to the Knicks. And they were also bad enough to squander a 7-point lead in the final, 70 seconds because nobody could make a free throw. Like, it's just a flawed team that has terrific, LeBron James doing a historically good old guy season, and it's just not good enough.
I agree with you. They're a flawed team, and they gave up a hell of a lot to get Russ, and they're paying him a hell of a lot of money. And if they exercise his option next year, there's a lot of money there. I mean, it's neither here nor there, but what if they had gone after Buddy Hield? Like, how different would they look right now?
Yeah.
And where would they be had they done that?
So I'm not a Buddy Hield guy.
Okay.
Like in general, right? Like, I think...
Why not?
But I just think he's a guy who's, there's no real history of him winning, and like part of that is the Kings, and he's just kind of a one-trick guy, right? He shoots threes, and like they need shooters, but he doesn't really help you on the defensive end, etc. That all being said, I think you touched on something, though. It's not just like, what if they'd gotten Buddy Hield? It's what if they had used those pieces to get anybody? And that's where the secondary part of the Westbrook trade is really kind of, crushed this Lakers team. It's not just that Russ isn't playing well. It's just that
it's what they gave up.
And you can't do anything else now to fix it, right? Like, so as we go into this trade deadline, I was talking to some sources yesterday, and like the issue is with the Lakers is like they can't even put together the right salaries to make a trade. It's very hard for them. Like, they've got Kendrick Nunn, who has played 0 seconds this year.
Would they move Russ if they could?
I mean, I think so, but like if they could is like a real big and look, and
because they can't.
Let's just even say they wanted to. They don't really even have the right players to attach, to for a team to make that palatable, And look, they are still, because they have LeBron James today, I believe still their best path forwards. It's not with John Wall. It's with what they have now, and hope that these lottery tickets hit. Right, these scratchers like that we can figure out everything. That's so like that to me still seems like the best, but it's the longer than Santa's little helper in the third out here, really.
Yeah, that dog won't hunt. That dog's not going to win. So really quickly, Dan Woike, my guest, how do you explain then the Clippers playing the entire season without Kawhi Leonard and huge chunks of the year without Paul George, being ahead of the Lakers in the standings?
I mean, I think roster construction is part of it, right? Is like they have tremendous depth because they didn't settle themselves with 3 max players. They have 2. And they've got an owner in Steve Ballmer who's willing to pay the tax. That's why they were able to do the Norman Powell trade, get a little bit better there, bring back a local guy, San Diego, UCLA, who's under contract and will eventually be a really good complementary player to Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And I just think, like, they just sort of know who they are. Like, they are a team that is going to have to play harder than you. They are a team that is going to have to be tougher than you. Whereas the Lakers, I still think, like, this is a roster that has players that we view as being really, really talented. I mean, 4 of the top 75 players when the NBA put their list on those Lakers, a 5th in Dwight Howard, who had probably a pretty good case to be one of them. And they say we get everybody's best shot every night because of that, and I don't know that I buy that. I mean, I think a certain level is they look super vulnerable, and that's why teams want to kind of pounce. But, yeah, I mean, good on the Clippers. Great flexibility, great coach in Tyronn Lue, who's made this work, and I think good ownership and good management. I mean, you put all of that stuff together, that's how you're in this position. All of that being said, though, Jim, the LeBron James AD gamble did result in a banner. And it's sort of like...
You can't take that from them, and it did. But when you talk about good management and ownership, what do you make of all the drama with Jerry West and Jeannie Buss and Jeannie leaving him off that top 5 list, them reportedly revoking his lifetime season seats? I mean, seriously, how beneath the Lakers is this? How bad is that optically, and how do you do the logo like that?
It's just a good reminder as to, like, what the Lakers are, and what I mean by that is, like, they are not a corporate entity. Like, it is a family business. It's succession. Like, in some ways at the top, right? And that means there are personal beefs.
Dude, how good is that show?
It's amazing.
Isn't that a great show?
Didn't watch it, by the way, till we named our youngest Logan. Like, we'd already named him Logan, watched the show, and we're like, oh no.
So you feel, okay, so we named our youngest Logan too, and I think he was like 8 before he got a name, because Janet and I couldn't agree on any names. But now that you know that, are you happy you named him Logan or not?
I'm not sure. I hope that's not his catchphrase too. Like, we're going to start hearing that as first words, then we're going to get F-bombed.
Hopefully so, man.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think, like...
That old dude's ruthless, man.
Jim, I think that's sort of the general sense, though, right? Is that's how this stuff occurs, right? If you're this big corporate entity and stuff like that, you've got PR people on PR people that are telling you, like, let's not make this happen. Let's not have personal beefs.
I mean, this is common sense.
It's also pro sports,
you ripped Jerry West season tickets. Like, somebody did that and did it via text, and not to him but to his wife. Like,
I know.
Like, do we need an actual corporate-run entity to prevent that from happening?
It is a stay-out-of-your-own-way situation, right? Just give him his tickets.
This is not a hard thing.
Just have the tickets.
All right, so finally, if you had to say right now, Dan, who's coming out of the East, who's coming out of the West?
I still like Milwaukee, I think, and they are, to me, the team that makes the most sense. Giannis has been terrific, and, man, this isn't exciting. I'd say... All right, I think the Warriors. I'll take the Warriors. And the Warriors' bet is that Draymond Green gets healthy, and because he is such an important player to that team. But Klay Thompson kind of coming along, Steph Curry, I still think, and they've resisted this kind of behind the scenes. They have, like, the pieces. If they wanted to do something, like, really crazy by Thursday, like, they're the team. Like, they've got everything.
Do you think Bob Myers would? Knowing Bob Myers the way you know Bob Myers, do you think he would?
They're a very loyal organization,
yeah, they are.
And they value continuity and stuff like that. So I don't think so. But if the right situation was there, I mean, they're a team that could add a star player. They've got the pieces, and you look around the league, there aren't that many, like, really competitive teams, at least that are in that position.
So last thought, tomorrow night you mentioned the Bucks, Lakers, Bucks, right next door at the Crypt. How do you see that game going?
I mean, I think the Lakers will. I think the Bucks will win, probably. It's just
no
sort
way,
of,
dude.
I know, right? Like, I'll take the team that's at the top of the standings versus the team that's in the bottom.
But you won't take Santa's helper in the fourth on that dog track.
To show. I'll take them to show. I'll take the Lakers to place tomorrow.
Dan Woike. All right, he's covering the NBA for the Los Angeles Times. He was a daily panelist on our daily show back in the day. That's a little redundant, but most of all, good friend of the program.
Good to be here, man.
Young dad, good to see you.
Good to see everybody.
I appreciate that. Thanks so much.